The embossed invitation sat on my kitchen counter like a relic from a past life. Cream-colored cardstock, gold foil lettering, and the Sterling family crest, an elaborate phoenix with outstretched wings, mocked me with every glint of sunlight. You are cordially invited to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Sterling Innovations, it read. Venue: the Skyline Ballroom at the top of Sterling Tower. Dress code: black tie. RSVP by April 15. I hadn't set foot in Sterling Tower in nearly 7 years, not since I walked out of that boardroom humiliated, stripped of my role, and called a liability by my own sister. You don't have the edge for this industry, Emily had said, her voice clipped and calculated. You care too much about people and not enough about profit. That's weakness. She wasn't wrong. Back then, I believed ethics and empathy had a place in business. I still do. But what she didn't understand was that you can be kind and powerful. You can build and destroy, just not at the same time. My hands shook as I slid the invitation back into its envelope. The irony wasn't lost on me. They wanted to celebrate 50 years of Sterling excellence, but the only thing my family had mastered was excellence. In betrayal, 7 years ago, I was the company's youngest VP, leading their green tech initiative. I had spearheaded a solar infrastructure deal in Southeast Asia until Emily pulled the plug, rerouted funds into a weapons-adjacent contract, and smeared my name to cover the scandal. You should be grateful we're not pressing charges, she had whispered in that boardroom, in front of our parents, the shareholders, and the press. I remember the look on my mother's face, not concern, not confusion, disappointment, as if she'd been waiting for me to fail. I left the building that day with nothing but my laptop, my pride, and a seed of something I couldn't name yet. Now, nearly a decade later, I sat in my penthouse suite in Manhattan, staring out at the skyline I helped design. No one knew I was behind Veritas Holdings, the quiet investment firm that had, over the past 5 years, acquired nearly 19% of Sterling Innovations Class A shares through a patchwork of shell corporations. Of course, Emily still thought I lived in Boston consulting for nonprofits. Good. Let her think that. What she didn't know was that I'd spent the last 7 years assembling a team of the very people Sterling had chewed up and discarded: engineers, developers, analysts, even her former CFO. They believed in something better. So did I, and now we owned almost a fifth of the company. The invitation to the gala wasn't an olive branch, it was a power play, a show of strength, a reminder that they still held the throne. But what they didn't realize, I built the floor. Beneath it, I buzzed my assistant, Amara, confirm my attendance for the gala, and book the salon. I want a dress that makes them uncomfortable. She laughed. Any preference? Something sharp, I said, and red, not wine, not blush, red like fire. As I hung up, I opened my encrypted drive and pulled up the internal memo leaked by an anonymous whistleblower just days ago. It detailed Sterling's mishandling of a major government contract, with enough evidence to warrant SEC scrutiny. Guess who the memo was going to be traced back to? Not me. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. They took everything from me, but I built something stronger, and I'm not coming back for revenge. I'm coming back to reclaim what's mine. The valet barely looked at me when I stepped out of the town car. That was the beauty of it. To them, I was just another elegant woman in a designer dress, flawless makeup, crimson heels, black silk gloves. Not the former VP they'd cast aside. Not the architect of the empire. Quietly encircling their own, Sterling Tower loomed above like a cathedral to corporate arrogance. Its mirrored surface reflected the twilight skyline, but all I saw was a mausoleum buried inside, the ghosts of everything they'd done to me. I walked through the revolving doors with my chin high. The lobby smelled like fresh marble and desperation. Name, please? The receptionist asked politely. Catherine Sterling, I said, letting the name linger. Her eyes widened slightly, just slightly, but she recovered quickly. Of course, you're on the list. She handed me a crystal token. Top floor, the Skyline Ballroom. In the elevator, the silence hummed louder than any music. My heart ticked like a bomb in my chest, but my expression was smooth as glass. No emotion, no hesitation, just poise. The doors opened with a soft chime. The ballroom glowed like a dream, cascading chandeliers, sweeping views of the city, and guests wrapped in wealth and ego. Waiters in tuxedos carried trays of champagne, laughter echoed off marble, and a string quartet played something elegant and forgettable. And there they were, my family. Emily stood near the center, flanked by our parents, soaking up praise like a queen anointing her court. Her dress was gold, her hair twisted into a perfect chignon. She looked powerful, but I'd seen power up close. Real power didn't need validation. She hadn't noticed me yet, not until a ripple passed through the crowd. I felt it, the slow turning of heads, the whispers building like static. That's Catherine Sterling, didn't she? I thought she moved to Europe. Emily's gaze snapped to me, and for a fraction of a second, she faltered. Not enough for most to catch. But I did. Catherine, she said coolly, walking toward me with a glass in hand. I wasn't sure you'd come. I wouldn't miss it, I replied, accepting a glass from a passing server. How's consulting? She asked, her smile like a blade wrapped in silk. Rewarding. I've been investing in some promising ventures. She arched a brow. Really? Non-profits? Some, I said. Others? Well, let's just say I have a diverse portfolio. Before she could respond, our father interrupted. Catherine, good to see you. You look presentable. He said it like it was a compliment. I bit back the urge to laugh. Thanks, Dad, I replied. 50 years. That's a long time to keep a company afloat. He chuckled, missing the undertone. With the right leadership, anything's possible. I toasted my glass. To leadership. The speeches began shortly after. Our mother spoke first, gracious and rehearsed. Then our father, still reliving the glory days of founding Sterling Innovations in a garage, as if that myth hadn't been polished and repackaged by PR teams for decades. And finally Emily, her voice rang out strong and clear, thanking shareholders, praising the board, and listing the company's latest accomplishments, glossing over the troubling contracts and financial red flags swirling quietly under the surface. As she closed, she said something that made my blood run cold, and with the upcoming acquisition of Veritas Holdings, we're entering a bold new chapter. Applause thundered. My grip on the champagne flute tightened. She thought she was acquiring Veritas, my company. She didn't know who the majority stakeholder was because Veritas had been structured deliberately to hide it. But someone inside my ranks had betrayed me. She was making her move, too early. I smiled, outwardly calm, but a plan was already assembling in my mind like the clicking of chess pieces. The orchestra resumed, and the crowd dissolved into conversation. Again, I slipped away to the balcony, letting the breeze hit my face. Moments later, someone joined me, not Emily, not my father, Julian Black, once CFO of Sterling Innovations, fired 6 years ago after refusing to sign off on a shadow budget. Emily pushed through. He'd vanished from the public eye shortly after. I knew better. Do they know you're here? He asked. No, and they don't know about you either. He grinned. We're on schedule. The final vote happens in 3 days. If you want to pull the trigger, now's the time. They think they're acquiring Veritas, I said, voice low. Let them. For now. You sure you want to go through with this? I turned to face him fully, my red dress catching the wind. They exiled me, lied, stole my work, branded me a liability. I built Veritas from the ashes of what they destroyed, and now I'm going to save their company from themselves by taking it away. I didn't sleep that night, not out of nerves, out of calculation. I sat by the window of my penthouse, the city glittering below, files and encrypted reports spread across my glass table. Every thread of Sterling Innovations' decay had been meticulously tracked. Misappropriated funds, bloated acquisitions, reckless product launches disguised as bold pivots. They thought they were swallowing Veritas to save themselves. They didn't realize Veritas was swallowing them. By morning, the final pieces were ready. I sent a short, encrypted message to Julian. Confirm Veritas board vote. Greenlight Operation Phoenix. Phoenix. That was what we called it. A corporate resurrection. By noon, I had news. The board had voted unanimously. Veritas Holdings would acquire controlling interest in Sterling Innovations, not the other way around. But the reveal, that was the art. The next day, Sterling Innovations called an emergency board meeting, conveniently disguised as a strategic alignment session. Emily was sure she had it in the bag. Her lawyers had drafted the acquisition terms. Their press team had embargoed a glowing press release, set to go live in 48 hours. She thought the crown was already on her head, and that was why she didn't see the guillotine. I walked into the boardroom dressed in charcoal gray, my heels sharp, my hair in a sleek bun. Emily did a double take. Catherine, this is a closed meeting. Funny, I said, setting down a thick folder. Because as of this morning, I'm the largest shareholder in this room, possibly in the entire building. Silence. Board members shifted in their chairs. Emily's confident smile flickered. What are you talking about? She asked, forcing a laugh. I handed a document to Mr. Langford, the head of the audit committee. Veritas Holdings now owns 61% of Sterling Innovations. I am the principal architect and majority owner of Veritas. You're lying, Emily snapped. We acquired Veritas. No, I interrupted, cool and calm. You submitted a bid for Veritas. We reviewed it, then rejected it. We were never for sale. You were. Langford spoke up, scanning the pages. These filings are real, confirmed, with the SEC this morning. And Catherine's name is listed as primary controller through 3 holding entities. She can't do this, Emily said, voice rising. She did, Langford replied, matter of fact. I turned to the rest of the board. I've watched this company spiral under poor leadership. I've watched it hemorrhage money, abuse trust, and alienate the very talent that built it. Effective immediately, Veritas Holdings is restructuring Sterling Innovations, the COO coughed. Does that mean a leadership change? Yes, I said. Emily Sterling is being relieved of all executive duties. She may retain her board seat pending a vote. Emily stood, trembling. You're unfit. You're emotional. You're unstable. I smiled. I'm not the one who leveraged company stock to finance a failed acquisition attempt without shareholder approval. That's a felony. Her face went pale. You're bluffing. No, I said. But I did hire a forensic accounting team. They've already submitted findings to the compliance board. Gasps. Someone muttered, Jesus. The board members began flipping through the documents. Emily's hands dropped to her sides. This was my company, she whispered. No, I said softly. It was our company. You made the mistake of thinking you were the only Sterling who mattered. That night, I stood alone in my new office, formerly Emily's. The skyline hadn't changed, but everything else had. My phone buzzed. It was Julian. Julian. Congrats, CEO Sterling. Press release is live. Headlines already changing. Me. Let them talk. Julian. Emily just removed president of Sterling from her LinkedIn. Me. How tragic. The next morning, my father called. Catherine. Dad. Long. Pause. I saw the news. Another pause. So, you were behind Veritas the whole time? I was. You could have warned us. You could have worked with us. No, I said. I tried. Years ago. And you made your choice. She's your sister. She stripped me of my position, discredited my research, and told investors I was a distraction. You backed her. He exhaled. You didn't have to do it this way. I did, I said, because you never would have taken me seriously otherwise. Silence again. Then, what happens now? I'm going to fix what she broke. I'm going to rebuild this company from the ground up. And I'll do it without your blessing, if I have to. He didn't respond, and for once, that silence wasn't heavy. It was freeing. Later that week, at a press conference, I stepped up to the podium. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned in. Sterling Innovations is entering a new chapter, I began. One where integrity and innovation take precedence over ego. Effective immediately, we are initiating reforms that will restore not just this company but the legacy it was meant to uphold. As I spoke, I spotted Emily in the back of the room. No longer in designer gold, no entourage, no smirk, just watching. She knew it was over, and I had barely begun. The headlines came fast and brutal. Sterling coup, mysterious CEO of Veritas revealed as Catherine Sterling from shadow to spotlight. The quiet sister who now owns it all. Emily Sterling ousted amidst financial misconduct investigation. I didn't flinch. I didn't celebrate. I worked out in the first 48 hours. I cleaned house. Every executive Emily had handpicked was placed on review. The board was restructured with a majority of Veritas-aligned directors. Transparency became our new religion. I brought back engineers and developers who had quietly quit under Emily's tyrannical micromanagement. I reopened the R&D pipeline she had gutted. The culture started shifting immediately from fear and favoritism to purpose and precision. And yet, amidst the praise and progress, I knew the next storm was coming, because Emily wasn't done. It started small anonymous tips to journalists hinting that Veritas takeover was a hostile act of personal revenge. Then came the whisper campaigns online. Catherine's mental health, Catherine's supposed jealousy, Catherine had stolen the company her sister had worked so hard to build. Classic Emily. Always trying to spin the narrative. But I'd come prepared. Julian forwarded me the latest leak, a clipped voicemail Emily had sent to a blogger, claiming I used back channels and foreign investors to destabilize Sterling's board. Do we respond? He asked. No, I said. Not yet. Because I had something better. The following week, we launched Sterling Reborn, a platform combining Veritas machine learning architecture with Sterling's legacy hardware. It was sleek, green, efficient, exactly what Sterling had once promised. Before it became bloated with bureaucracy, the demo went viral. Suddenly, my name wasn't just trending because of scandal. It was trending because I had delivered. Catherine Sterling might just save American tech manufacturing. Quiet genius. Why Wall Street is betting on the other Sterling sister. And then came the final blow, an exclusive interview. On the New York Times business desk, the journalist, a sharp-eyed woman named Maya, sat across from me in my new office. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, she said. Everyone's asking why now? Why take over Sterling after all these years? I looked directly into the camera lens. I didn't take over Sterling, I said. I saved it. My sister nearly ran it into the ground. I stepped in to protect our family's name and its future. Maya blinked. And your father? Where does he stand in all this? I paused. My father taught me to believe in building. But he forgot that legacies are not just about the past, they're about who has the courage to shape the future. The interview aired the next morning. It was clipped, reshared, dissected. Emily didn't respond, because she couldn't. A week later, my father showed up at my office. Not the old one, my real one. I thought I'd never be here again, he said, glancing around. But it looks better than I remember. I nodded. You didn't come for design tips. No, he admitted. I came to say something I never thought I'd have to say. I looked at him. I was wrong. He sat across from me, older now, more tired. I was wrong about your sister. About you. I thought I had to choose between you both. And I picked the loud one. The obvious one. She made herself obvious, I said softly. I didn't want the spotlight. I wanted the work. He nodded. That's the part I never understood. I thought ambition meant noise. But yours was different. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he added, You've done more for this company in 2 weeks than we managed into years. Your mother would have been proud. That cut deeper than he knew. She wanted me to fight for myself, I said. I finally did. Before he left, he turned at the door. Will you let me be a part of what's next? I didn't answer right away, but I didn't say no. That weekend, I got a letter, real paper. Elegant script.it was from Emily. Catherine, I won't beg for forgiveness. I won't pretend I didn't try to destroy you. Maybe I was always jealous of how you never needed validation. Or maybe I was afraid you'd outgrow me and I was right. I don't expect a response, but I needed to say it. You won, Emily. Read it twice. Then I locked it in a drawer. Because I hadn't done this for her approval or for revenge. I had done it for myself. The following Monday, I stood at the all-hands meeting, something Emily hadn't done in years. Hundreds of employees gathered in the atrium. I know the last few years have been chaotic, I began. And I know trust isn't something you rebuild overnight. But we are here to do something extraordinary. We are here to reinvent what it means to be a Sterling. They applauded, not out of obligation, but out of belief. For the first time in a long time, the company had a soul again, and it was mine. 6 months later, Sterling Veritas wasn't just surviving, it was leading. We'd become a case study at Stanford Business School, a headline in Forbes, and the subject of 3 different venture podcasts. We'd opened a clean energy lab in Austin, partnered with a European climate accelerator, and quietly hired back dozens of brilliant minds who had walked out during Emily's regime. But it wasn't just business that had changed. One crisp October morning, I stood before the original Sterling family estate, now restored and repurposed as our innovation and leadership retreat center. The gardens had been cleaned, the mold scrubbed from the walls, the windows widened to let in more light, exactly how Mom would have wanted it. I'd renamed it the Elaine Sterling Center for Ethical Innovation, because legacies didn't belong in vaults or boardrooms, they belonged in people's hearts. The dedication ceremony brought together journalists, investors, employees, and a few faces I never expected to see again. One of them was my father. He arrived quietly, no press, no aides, just a man in a dark coat with tired eyes and a slightly softer voice than I remembered. You've made this place whole again, he said. I just gave it purpose. He nodded slowly, his hands behind his back. When your mother died, I lost sight of the bigger picture. I clung to the daughter who reminded me of myself, but I forgot the one who reminded me of her. He looked at me, his voice catching. That was you. I didn't say anything for a long time, but eventually, I said, she believed in building things that outlasted pain. He smiled faintly. Seems like you inherited the best of us both. Later that afternoon, I was approached by Julian. You ready for what's next? He asked, handing me a sleek tablet loaded with our expansion roadmap: Europe, Asia, new AI labs, the clean tech division. Almost, I replied, my gaze drifting toward the autumn trees outside. There's one more thing I need to do first. That thing was a meeting, private, quiet. In a modest cafe in the Upper West Side, Emily walked in wearing oversized sunglasses and a cashmere coat. She looked thinner, older, but still carried that sterling stiffness in her shoulders. She sat down across from me without a word. For a moment, we just stared at each other, two sisters who had once shared bunk beds and now shared a corporate war history. I'm not here for a truce, I began. And I'm not interested in reopening the company's doors to you. She nodded. I figured. But I wanted to look you in the eye and say, I don't hate you. That made her blink. I pitied you for a long time, I continued. You needed to be seen so badly. You burned everything that could have actually made you powerful. But I don't hate you. Emily shifted in her seat, her voice low. I thought I was protecting the family. No, I said, voice steady. You were protecting your ego. And now that it's shattered, you're finally capable of seeing what you destroyed. She exhaled slowly. Is this forgiveness? No, I said calmly. This is closure. I stood up. I have a company to run, a legacy to grow, and, finally, a life that's mine. As I turned to leave, Emily's voice followed me. You were always the smarter one. I didn't turn back, because I didn't need her validation anymore. Back at the office, a letter from Stanford awaited me. They wanted me to speak at their Winter Business Forum. Resilience, power, and purpose. The Sterling Veritas story. I smiled. Not because of the prestige, but because I knew what I'd say. That power without integrity is noise. That real success doesn't beg for attention. And that sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one holding all the blueprints. That night, I walked the Sterling Veritas campus alone. The courtyard lights bathed the pathways in soft gold. I passed interns laughing over takeout, engineers scribbling notes on glass walls, and even a young woman with a pixie cut rehearsing her pitch in front of a mirror. She reminded me of me, a me who once hid behind conference notes and espresso runs, a me who stayed late fixing code Emily broke, a me who loved the work but hated the silence. Now, I wasn't silent anymore. I was leading. I paused beneath the bronze plaque just outside the main lobby. It bore a single quote from my mother. Build quietly, and when they finally look up, let what you've made speak louder than your name ever could. I ran my fingers over the engraving, and I smiled, because I had done exactly that. I had rewritten the Sterling name not with scandal or noise, but with vision, discipline, and grace. And in the end, I didn't need revenge. I just needed to become everything they said I couldn't be.